dumping Rahm Emanuel, but it does mean making clear that we're going to operate in a different way from now on.
Yeah. All right, Alan, stay with us. We want to bring in a couple of other people. Liberal radio talk show host Leslie Marshall joining us from L.A. And from Atlanta, we have Jack Pierce. He is a Tea Party activist. Folks, glad you could be with us. Leslie, do you sense that President Obama has this tension now between the liberal base that got him into office and the more moderate folks who want him to have more power so that he can pass what he wants?
I think it is a reality that he certainly has a lot more pressure from a party that's not as unified. And I honestly think both the Democrats and Republicans are not as unified as they once were. But I have to say, I just don't see Obama as being a dirty trick kind of president. I see a man who wants to keep his promises, who wants change, who wants to work with a bipartisan group to get health care reform passed, not just to be reelected, to keep his promise, because that seems to be the type of man that is his character.
Jack, did I hear a guffaw from you?
Yeah, oh, come on, let's get real. Obama's got one agenda, and that's his, period. That's all he's concerned with is what he wants. If he was concerned in the least bit about what the country really wanted, we wouldn't have gotten to this point, because he would have been listening back in September when everybody marched on D.C., and ever since then speaking up and saying, you know what, we don't like this. Look at the polls. 60 to 70% of the polls, whichever one you look at, is going to say, we don't like health care. They didn't listen. They didn't do anything. They still didn't do anything. That's why Scott Brown is in here. That's why the Democrats are starting to back down, because they see that they're losing their ground. Obama is interested in doing what he wants to do. Anything that appears like he is working bipartisan is going to be for show only, just like the thing he did after the State of the Union address. It was a dog and pony show. He did a token appearance saying, I'll listen to you. For him to have an effect in the rest of his office, he's going to have to do something that's completely contrary to his very nature.
You know, who knows what lurks in the heart of President Obama? But I mean, this is one of those times when the interests of the president and the interests of the leaders of Congress clearly diverge. Congress has an election coming up. The president doesn't. The president wants to accomplish things. Congress wants to. The Democrats in Congress want to make sure that they get reelected, and that divergence is going to be a big part of the dynamic this whole year.
You know, I use the phrase "throw them under the bus," but it's not just me. There's a labor leader, John Gage. He's the president of the American Federation of Government Employees. He says, and I'm quoting him now, here's labor getting thrown under the bus again, referring to the National Labor Relations Board guy that they wanted to get on and couldn't. So it's some of the labor leaders and some of the liberals in his own party that are saying Obama's throwing us under the bus.
Yeah, but the president isn't. I mean, you know, this is like, I want Dionne Warwick to come on and sing Deja Vu. The one thing that I hate about my fellow Americans is we're so bloody fickle and apathetic that on Monday we want health care, on Tuesday we want it only with a public option, and on Wednesday we don't want it. Look at the polls with Iraq. We wanted to go to Iraq. A couple of months later we wanted to come home from Iraq. And that's the problem with health care reform. Wait. When you say he's doing his agenda, he's doing what he promised and what got him elected as president.
Not lazy, because you look at the power of the Tea Party movement, and these are people.
I didn't say lazy. I never said lazy. I said apathetic.
No, she said
apathetic and fickle, and they're very different. Mrs. Perry, my English teacher from high school, would beg to differ with you.
Thank you very much. I don't need an English lesson from you, Leslie. But the fact is, Jack, that apathetic does not describe the Tea Party movie. It is the exact opposite of apathy. The Tea Party movie, it's a very small amount of people in America.
You're right. Apathetic does not describe. In fact, it's apathetic is exactly the opposite of what the Tea Party really is. What she had actually said is, my fellow Americans have become apathetic, and I have to agree with her on that. And that's one of the biggest problems we have with our country. Until now, we're starting to see a change, but for the most part, we have been apathetic. We've been sitting around and letting the government run us, not getting involved and pretending like everything's fine, and being lazy, apathetic, and only learning from what we hear at CNN saying, oh, that must be right. Okay, well, that's the way I want it. That's why the poll changes from day to day to day.
Alan,
what we're seeing now as a result of...
Go ahead, Alan.
It's not about the followers. It's about the leaders. This is a question of leadership. It really was predictable a year ago. We've never accomplished major social change in this country without some degree of bipartisan support. And the day they decided to go on a straight bipartisan.
Alan, it was not possible to predict that Scott Brown would have won the Massachusetts race. I mean, there have been some
but even without
changeovers.
Scott Brown, David, it was predictable that a health care bill, a massive social change like health care that was passed solely on a party line vote, would not be stable. We didn't know how quickly a Scott Brown was going to come along, but we knew it would not be stable.
Leslie, did you see that a year ago, that it was impossible that the health care bill would have passed?
If on a partisan vote.
Yes, and I said,
Even
I
with
said
60
it on
votes in the Senate.
Yes, and I'll tell you why. I mean, there's a lot of things to factor. It's not just leaders, and it's not just voters, and it's not just polls, and who's looking at what the constituents are saying for re-election, et cetera. They're a lobbyist. You are talking about major reformation, a major overhaul and change that takes a lot more time than this. I've always said, and I'm a liberal Democrat, they would do this too fast.
Hold on. I understand from my producer that we have a clip of you saying that the health bill would pass. No, I'm kidding, Leslie. Don't worry.
Yes, I said that the health care bill would pass, but I said it would be a watered-down version, and I said I did not agree with doing this hastily.
Jack, go ahead. I didn't even know that.
Find the tape and roll it.
Go ahead.
Find the tape and roll it.
She brought up a good point that you can't pass a huge social program like health care reform in just a short period of time, which is one of the biggest problems. They want to shove it down our throat in 6 months. If it's so darn important, why don't we take our time and truly reach across the aisle, truly not do it backdoor, not buy off Louisiana, not buy off Nebraska. Why don't we take some time and get it done the right way? Now, to the point spoken earlier,
quickly, Jack.
You're right. It is about the people now, because we haven't had true leadership in a long time. We have not had the right kind of leadership in a long time.
Well,
Bush wasn't it.
We'll see how the leadership changes.
We have not been represented. We have not been represented.
Guys.
We have not been represented honestly with any integrity in quite some time, and that's why the government, or excuse me, the people are speaking up.
The last word, Jack. Thank you very much, Alan Murray. A pleasure to see you again.
Great
Alan.
to be here.
Been too long. And Leslie, we'll see more of you coming up. And on deck with Goldman Sachs.